Welcome back, family, to another episode of the Art of Ashan podcast. I'm Ko.
And I'm June.
And we're here back again to share and enlighten you on many, many things concerning our world. Last week, we had a nice chance to speak about the power of words and how words can permeate, how words can inspire, and also how words can tear down. Yeah. But as individuals, how we need to be protective of how we utilize words in our upbringing and how we also deal with other people.
One of the cool things that we've learned about the power of words is that it manifests. No matter whether you're trying to or not, whatever you believe in, it's going to create. Like in the beginning, we looked at Genesis, or we talked about Genesis chapter 1, where in the beginning was God, and then he said, let there be light, and there was a process. So things don't just happen overnight. It's like through a process of time, things happen. Like a tree isn't just there. It takes time. It's watered, it's planted. It has to be in the right soil. It has to be in the right environment. You have to have the right rain, the right this, the right that. So in the right circumstances, in the right atmosphere, or the wrong atmosphere, it goes both ways. There's not just one way to it. So I think now that we've created a really good understanding of the power of words, this episode, we want to really focus in on the mind. And if we were to give it a title, it's like the mind is a terrible thing to waste. And what's in your mind? Words. You can look at something and say to yourself, you can read and you read to yourself. You're not reading out loud, but that's words, that's spirit, that's intellect, that's life. And that's what your perception is. So you can perceive something to be that really isn't, or you can perceive something to be and manifest it in a way that is fruitful and beneficial for all. So we want to foster that type of ideals, those type of habits. So, Ko, what do you think about being smart versus intelligence? I think there's a huge difference between the two. I think we think, oh, he's really smart, or that person's intelligent. I think we want to break that down a little bit and give a little bit more perspective on those two ideas.
So when you think in terms of an individual being smart versus intelligent, usually a person who is smart is cunning, sharp,
Here come the con man.
Very crafty.
Yeah.
But intelligence oftentimes is something that you're born with. That's why growing up as kids, they usually give you an IQ test because they want to test your ability to learn, how you can process and how you articulate information, because that's a good indicator on how smart you are. So taking an exam will show you, yeah, you're smart because you can know this, you know that, because some people are great test takers. Some people, they learn differently.
Yeah, book smart versus street smarts
versus street smart.
Exactly. When street smarts is more of intuition. That's more intellect. You see the same etymological root words. It's like wow, he's intelligent. A person can be very intelligent. I mean, because you go like, say, the Pygmy tribe. You have the Africans who they would be in the forest and knew that branch or those leaves were good for the liver. And then that's good for the pancreas. And how do you know that? You don't have no textbook. They don't got no, that's intel, that's connectedness.
Yeah, that's
smart knowledge. Can be learned, that's exposure. Smart can be learned, that's exposure. Smart can be learned, that's exposure. You know what I'm saying? If you're not exposed
to the environment,
then you don't know.
So when you just made that connection between street smart and being book smart, person being street smart, obviously they've been there. They've been at an environment. That's their norm. Right. Versus a person who hasn't been there, they will be ignorant to that and almost very aloof when you place them out of their element. Right. Versus you put them in a space that they are very aware of, they become considered smart in that region. Yeah. So that's why even when we connected with education can be a little bit problematic because of the different learning styles. Some people are much more auditory learners. You can say it to them, they can regurgitate everything you say. Some people have to see it.
Right.
Some people need a combination of both. So if you do one or the other, it's not necessarily one is better than the other, but it's just a catering to that person.
And that's a tip for teachers and parents and anybody you're dealing with, because you're like, I explained it to you. If you don't get it, then that's on you. Well, there's many learning styles, just like there's a lot of love languages. We're so, as human beings, that's what makes us so powerful and so beautiful, is that we have so many different ways that we communicate, that we understand, that we perceive. And I think it's really important for us to understand, especially when you're rearing a child, we just say, oh, that person must have this, autism, or this person may have this. And it doesn't mean that they may not have those things, but if we just jump to conclusions based on what society has created,
standard metrics, We have this one size fits all mentality. Yeah. And if you don't fall under this parameter, then something must be wrong with you. Wow. Which makes no sense, but that's the system.
And the intel, I think, is a God-given thing, and I think all of us have a form of intelligence, and it grows as our, emotional intelligence. Those things continue to evolve. I think, I used to think this way, but now I've noticed this, whether it be through experience, environment, that creates more of the intel, in wisdom. So if you have wisdom versus knowledge, wisdom is knowledge applied, but knowledge is based on exposure and accessibility. So if somebody lives in a village somewhere and they don't have access to
books you read on a daily basis,
doesn't mean they're not smart. Or if you live in the hood and you see Ivy League schools and you think, oh well, they're better off than me, they may have more access than you. They may have been exposed to, like growing up, I used to see people on TV and stuff. I didn't even know I could go on TV. I didn't even know there was even a possibility to do that, because I wasn't exposed to it till I got older, and I realized, like, whoa, wow, I have this talent, could have been doing A, B, C, and D. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's really important to differentiate the two, because then it gives you the self-confidence and not beating yourself up because you're comparing yourself to other people and saying, well, how come I can't do this like they do? Or how come they, especially with this day and age with Instagram and with social media, it's like everyone is projecting this image that isn't even real.
It's not real.
You just pull up on somebody and be like, yo, can I take this picture with you? Okay, cool. You took this picture and then you put it up, living my best life. Like,
that's not even real. It's so true. One thing I tell students a lot, even parents, especially of athletes, because I know football is usually one sport where there's a stereotype that they're just dumb people.
All right. Hey, water boy, check this out.
Right.
But you can recall the time when we went to go visit your friend, our Justin.
Yeah.
Who died. Rest in peace, Justin. This guy was trying out for the Washington Redskins. We went to his room during training camp, his hotel in Virginia, and he showed us the binders that they had to memorize, the plays they had to memorize. He had like 5 binders. Like, these weren't the small 1-inch either. These were big binders. And he said they basically you had to know the individual plays. So when you have students in high schools and stuff like this, who, when you give them an algebra exam or they're in class, a lot of times they don't want to apply themselves because they don't see the importance of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But if they use the same intellect or the same skill that they put on the football field to understand those plays, because just imagine, a lot of people can't do what they do.
Yeah,
you just imagine, it's crazy.
Right, you say that they're dumb, and he's like, yo, I gotta learn blue 52 6 equal 9, and then blue 52 7 equal 12. And it's literally like a 5 and out, and then the other one is a 5 and in, and have to know all those plays, and then the quarterback has it on his sleeve, and that's one component. Then you're dealing with massive, strong guys who are coming at you at lightning speed.
Season and one in the playoffs.
And then you have a visor, you're in a helmet where you can't even see. So you have to work with intel, you have to work with knowledge, you have to work with wisdom, you have to work with instinct.
Intuition, everything. All at one time.
All at one time. That takes a whole nother level. So that's why they're getting paid the way they get paid.
Yeah.
Same thing with basketball, any sport. It's a discipline, or a person who disciplines themselves in academics for the sciences or even the arts. And this is for artists, because I used to always think I'm not an artist because I work in the music industry and I don't have like a bunch of tattoos on my face. And I'm not saying that's not art, but that's just a
aspect.
You have so many types of artists. There's bachelors of art. The hieroglyphics is art. Mm-hmm. They spoke through art. That's why I'm intrigued by the Chinese and the Asian languages, because it's like, it's emotion, it's signs. Whereas English, or it's very rigid and like very controlled. Whereas like exactly what is being said, or you don't know what exactly is being said. It's like, oh, you didn't read the frying pan. But it's like, when I was driving Lyft and doing other things, it's like when I would hear Chinese people talking, you have no idea what they're saying. It's just all like, wow. And then you're like, what does that mean? It'd be like one sound, don't you, or whatever. And then it means like, well, that means it's like a paragraph. Right. It's like, whoa. Right. So you got all of that in that.
That's why I'm amazed at the symbols. I see people with tattoos. I'm like, what does that say? How do you know that's what it says? About I had to get it verified. But I mean, just like you said, it's just one. It looks like a symbol. You're like, this can't possibly be 5 or 6 words.
I was just meeting with my uncle the other day, and he was telling me about a lot of the African Adinkra symbols and stuff like that. This means the goose is this, and it's looking back. That means you have to go back and fetch it and bring it back. And I'm like, wow, it's so much rich texture. And that was a part of the oral tradition that the scriptures came from, that a lot of other cultures do, where you're like, well, that's, they in Western world, they call it a myth. Or it's like, the mythology says, well, according to Western standards, I can understand why you think that. But in that culture, oral tradition being passed down through the what? The word. That's rich history, because then it's never lost. It's in the soul. So that goes back to the intel, that goes back to the intellect. And what we're losing in our society now, the hybrid, these half human, half computer individuals, like, oh my gosh, my phone is dying. I can't even survive without my phone. You can't spell without your phone. You can't.
People don't even communicate. Like nowadays, you go places and literally there'll be a table full of people. Everyone's on their phone. Everybody. Like they don't talk anymore. So it's even weird now, because depending on the age bracket, they don't know how to communicate with you face to face, because everything is via keyboard texting. So all their emotions are through emojis and all caps. So when you talk to them in person, they get uncomfortable because they've never had to do it.
So that's causing us to become zombies. It's like Walking Dead almost. We can't think anymore. It's like sometimes I go to church or to an event and the speaker is right, like say 10 feet in front of you. They want to look up at the screen.
You've been programmed to watch TV sets all day. Literally, he's right in front of you, but you're gonna look at the screen.
So now you're being told how to think. All the girls take their picture, they turn their head to the side, or everybody looks the same.
It's robots.
The music sounds the same. I remember I went to South by Southwest, and it was literally, it felt like one trap album for 6, but 12 people was singing the same song. It's like, yo, this next artist gonna get up and gonna do this. Boom, 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 boom.
Same song.
Same thing over and over and over. Where hip hop and music used to be art. Art is about expression from your soul. But if you have your uniqueness. So if you don't have a unique perspective, if you don't have in touch with an internal perspective, shout out to IPG. If you don't have an internal perspective, you will not be able to maximize your art expression, because that don't sound like the new, and that record is not going to do well. So now what my problem is a lot in the music industry is like, everything is based, or even in the movie, entertainment as a whole is like, what did the numbers say?
Right.
Okay, it did good, do that again. So it's not art. So it's actually killing culture. You guys are killing culture by doing the same thing.
And like you said, they base it on economics, they base it on fanfare. So if the people are not listening to it, because yesterday we were riding in the car and there was a nice track being played by Erykah Badu. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about how not 10 years ago, she was the hottest thing out there and still continuously doing what she does. But when you get a certain level or you start to project certain messages in your music, the powers that be who control the checks, who control the media, who control the message, they'll cut you back and bring other people to the forefront. So that's why you got this copycat generation, because now people feel like, in order to be hot, I got to do what he's doing. I got to do that dance. Yeah, right. Soulja Boy came, so everybody had to have a gimmick because he hit. Yeah. Because remember, dance used to be artistic, like Michael Jackson, James Brown, even Chris Brown, all these dancers, like they literally, now you have gimmick dances that hit, kids want to do it, get on YouTube, bam, you're a sensation.
Going viral, which isn't necessarily bad, but the emotional intelligence and the mental intelligence to actually expand, where now you have the access. You don't need the big studio anymore. You could do it right at your house. Look at what we're doing, the podcast. If you was going to do a podcast a long time ago, you would have to get contracts and you would have to do this and do all this, get someone's approval on what you want. We could say whatever we want. We could do whatever we want. And that's a beautiful thing. So what we want to encourage is like, let's get back to our individuality. Well, let's get back to the power that created the pyramids. The pyramids are still up. The pyramids are still up. 10,000 years later, they're still up. They want to say, aliens did all this kind of stuff. Those philosophies are there to try to control and to try to minimize. When you were a baby, when you were born, first of all, you made it through 9 months. You made it through 9 months in a bunch of gook and water and all kinds of stuff. You come out and then you get on the earth. You don't speak any languages. You don't talk. And you learn how to talk. A baby never just stops and is like, I'm not going to try anymore.
You say, Mama. You stinker.
Just go.
Whatever it's seeing, whatever it's perceiving, it has to, so, mommy, ma. Oh my gosh, you said it. Walking, try. He don't just sit down, or she doesn't just sit down and like not try anymore. It's like, oh my gosh, she's walking. And then once we tap into our creative power, our God-given talents, our abilities that start in our mind, starts with our thoughts, and then we manifest it through word, and then we start manifested it in real life, and then we're told, oh, take a test. Let's see your intelligence. Let's do this. Oh, we start to philosophize and indoctrinate. Mm-hmm. And the philosophies now that are in our culture, which is contrary to human nature, is what? Narcissistic now, and individualism.
That's
me only.
That's what's dangerous.
It's literally killing us. We're oversaturating ourselves with just me. When all of nature, like we said earlier, it's like the ants or the animals. When you see birds fly, you don't see, we just watch the birds sometime we're in the park, and you just see them like, it's like 12 or 13 of them, and there's such synergy and harmony, and they just float and just move, and with no, hey, you gonna go this way? Or you gonna go that way?
In sync, naturally.
And we're supposed to be that way, but because we're being programmed in our mind, or we're being controlled, or we're being trying to do what that person's doing, or we perceive, I want to be darker, I need to be lighter, so I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do this, or I gotta be like this, I need to go out to the gym, and all those things are not bad. So I'm not knocking any of those things, but everything is about
moderation.
balance.
Yeah, everything has to be in moderation, because it all comes back to the intent.
At this point, Cole knew he was about to drop a gem.
Why are you doing this? What is the true reason you're doing this? Because it's one thing to do things like you talk about, body being healthy. It's great to be healthy.
Right.
But if your motivation is to look like somebody else, you're going to end up starving yourself, or you're going to end up hurting yourself, or doing damage to yourself. Yeah. And that's not sustainable.
Right.
So, and the same thing comes to, there's a fine line between being confident or having confidence. But narcissism, to be the person to get all the shine and putting down other people, that's when you fall in error.
Right.
Because, because people, or great people in general, just successful people in life, oftentimes they're humble to the point where other people perpetuate them, or other people put them on a pedestal. So some people, that's all they see is people at their apex. Yeah. So that's what you want to be, but you didn't see the process of how it took to get there. Nor did you see that the why people put them in that position. True. You just can't go and take that office.
Yeah, because you can't handle that weight anyway.
You can't handle that weight.
You haven't got anything. You get too fast, you're gonna lose it, and that's a part of how I feel like America as a whole, like the nation's young, is like a teenager. Mm-hmm. And right now we're having all this. We're in birthing pains. We're going through our maturity, and we're becoming. We're at a point right now where it's like, are we going to mature? Are we going to be able to break through this situation? That's why I think the president, all that's going on right now, is a beautiful opportunity to show, are we going to grow? Are we going to mature? Are we going to stay with old ideals that keeps us behind, and we can see how we're losing ground? We're not even in the top 10 in education. We're not in the top 10 of a lot of things. It's just all material driven things, or like money driven things, which are only one metric. And I want to keep pushing the metrics. Like, we have to have other sustainable ways of thinking, philosophies that helps us grow so that we can sustain this and move forward.
One thing to touch on, just what you just said, when we talk about different modalities and mediums to operate in, it's like how it was years ago when schools offered technical education. Mm-hmm. You could go to school and be a plumber, a barber, a carpenter, a cosmetologist. They removed all those tech ed programs out of the school. So now they made it college. Then we're realizing that medium is not for everybody. So if we can have, like you just mentioned, that diversity, and actually allow students and allows people to be more diverse and more well-rounded as individuals. So when you start talking about, those blue collar type professions that require those specialized trainings, that is something which oftentimes IQ tests can't measure.
Right.
So but
they're losing those jobs more and more because of technology.
Exactly. In some cases, I mean, being a mechanic, for example, you will never be able to lose that unless they move to like this whole electric car things where that becomes automated. Now robots can take your job in that mode because now those cars.
Look at GM.
Yep, those cars don't need.
How many jobs? 15,000. 15,000 jobs gone. So it's like,
that's a lot.
Accessibility is like it's becoming smaller and smaller, and you have to ask yourself, moving in the future, what is that? Where is that bringing us to? So it goes back to the beginning. So it's like all these things we're doing, everything's going to come back to what was natural and what was supposed to be, which is community and connection. And that was the cool thing that I learned, working throughout Africa, was like they don't have all of the material wealth, but they had the connection in the community, which is needed just like food and water. We all need connection. So we have this quasi, that's why we talk about these hybrids. We're all connected through social media. We're always on social media. And it's like, okay, that's cool. It's not really connected though, because like you said, when you have a conversation with somebody, it's like you're talking to a foreign person. It's weird too, because sometimes you'll see people put pictures up, and then when you meet them in person, it's like, oh wow, that's not even.
It's you.
This is like a totally different individual, because they smile and they do all this different stuff, and you meet them, and it's like the energy is completely different.
Energy, there's emotion, there's a lot of different things playing that you can't get from typing in front of a computer screen or through your cell phone. So you can't do it.
So natural, and I think that's the, once again, you have the different fruits and the different groups of people that bring different perspectives and strength and beauty to the world. The people in poor nations or materialistically poor, whether it be South America, Africa, the islands, Haiti, or wherever you go there, you're going to find culture. And that's what's been there from the beginning, before all of this industrialization and Western philosophies and all those things that came about. Is like, we have to have a balance of both. I'm not saying we should completely regurgitate or go back to, no computers and so forth and so on, but I do think we need to pull back on some of those things and begin to connect back to the human element, because we're losing what it means to be human. When I drive around or when I communicate and talk with people, even with parents, they're not in touch with their kids. They don't even know how to communicate with them. Like, I don't even know what to do.
World. It's a totally different world from what they're used to.
I was talking to a friend last night where he's like, my son is getting older now, and he's going through his, as a man, young boy, they're going through puberty and growing and stuff like that, and their hormones are changing. And he has other younger siblings, and some of the things that he's experiencing, he don't want to expose the younger ones to too early. So it's like it's a
balance. How do you do it?
It's very difficult. Or if your daughter's on Instagram and she's like, like me, and she's liking 1,000. And here goes just on some swag. It's like, if you're following more people than that are following you, at least, do the balance. At least be 100 to 200 off. If you got 600 people following you, at least have 800 that's following you. And you're following 600. Don't be following more people than that's following you. That's just showing a little bit of desperation and insecurity. That's just a little side note.
Just as simple, just to hear you say following, that is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like, you're following people.
Yeah.
Like, you're following, like, literally.
Yeah.
You're grown men and women.
Following.
Like, you're following
and
other
if you
people.
don't follow somebody, you ain't like my picture, or this person's, why did you unfollow me? I've had grown people ask me that, like, you
unfollow me, like,
and then they unfollow you back. It's like, what?
Or you go on Facebook, add a friend, like, I thought we were friends.
Yeah,
I got deleted.
And they take it personally.
This is the new world. That's their emotion, the cyber system we're in, which it makes no sense. But think about it. Look how.
But it's real though. It's a real reality for people. Even talking to these kids, man, it's just like with that. You see in this generation, even to say in hip hop, there's more suicides. Death, insecurity. I picked up a bunch of kids in the car one time, and there was 4 of them, I think 5 of them, and they were all said, we were talking, I was like sharing with them about, some of these things we talk about, like, yo, you can't love money. We got to get this money, but you got to be smart and invest and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, man, you right, bro. Yo, we should get together and do this and do that. I'm like, that's cool. But then it was like, yo, you know what? We all hooked. You right, because we all hooked on Percocet right now. Oh, yeah. Xanax, they said. They was all hooked on Xanax. And then the other kid in the back was like, yeah, I tried to commit suicide 3 times. Like, it was normal. The kids were still on their phone. Like, what he said, it didn't matter. The value of life, their life in general, has been substituted for material. So now you see that this thing that we've created is really causing us to lose focus in touch with our humanity. We're losing touch with our humanity through all of these things that we've created that the young people don't know. You know, and then the elders aren't there. We don't have older people there that can kind of guide us.
Yeah, because it's new to the elders. I call them distractions.
Yeah.
Because as you progress forward, technology or the corporates would tell you this is more. It makes things more efficient. It's easier. It's better. Like we were just joking about just now about spell check. Mm-hmm. People can't spell, so now that you misspell on purpose because you know Microsoft will correct it for you.
Just get close enough.
It's like get close enough. Like you don't spell.
You're like, dang, how is that a Z? Hold on, that's no suggestion.
How do I spell believe? Let me just throw it on there because the system will give you options.
And I'm guilty of this too. After you tried a couple times and then they'd be like, no suggestion. You're like, let me just use a different word then.
Same thing with texting. Texting, you got auto text. They'll just fill it in for you. So once again, this is part of our brains and a part of our functionality that we're no longer utilizing.
And that's a part of this whole AI movement. And the AI thing is artificial. That's the key phrase there. We talking about the power of words. Artificial intelligence. Now, once again, it's helpful. But when it's driven too much and it's just about getting the money, I don't care how we get it, just get money, get paid. I'm about the dollar. I'm going to get this money. Blah, blah. AI is suggesting everything. You watch a YouTube video, they're like, oh, we suggest this. Or like when I'm on Spotify, you guys don't get it right. Spotify, you got to get it right. If I'm playing Bob Marley, I don't want to hear just any reggae artist because you think, oh, they're the reggae, let's throw that. Nah, because it's the energy of that specific artist. So that's how you need to tap in and really suggest things, but you can't have that because it's not real. That's the problem with robots. I don't want no robot driving me because there's going to be some type of human element that you can't equate for.
Exactly.
I have compassion.
And that's where you fall into problems. But a lot of those things aren't really measured or cared about because I'll get the dollar. You guys do what you want. So the value of life is not important.
Like right behind me, I know you guys can't see, but right behind me, there is an encyclopedia that's non-existent today. Like growing up, you guys have Google now.
Yeah.
But in times past, you had to get an encyclopedia, do research, actually read to find information.
Right.
Doing it, so reading comprehension, being able to decode and see how scientists write, that also builds your reading and writing skills. But now, since you can go to a computer and type in Google and get some article or snapshot, you've lost all the sense of research. And now their research is basically seeing what's on the internet.
And you can create new history. You can create anything.
Wikipedia.
There was an article where the Pope was like, I think they misunderstood the Lord's Prayer, so we're going to change it this way because he didn't really mean lead into temptation this way, so we're going to change it this way. And now you see how those types of things are formed. And then say 200 years from now, it's a totally different ballgame. It's just like if your name is Co, right? And I'm like, nah, your name is Calm. You be like, nah, that's not my name. And I go on stage with 1,000 people and I'm like, his name is Calm. You be like, nah, that's not my name. Everybody's like, Calm.
Your name is.
And they rush Bungar and then you die. When they say what your name is, your name is Calm. That's what's happening with the internet and stuff. It's like you could change it based on who has the power. Mm-hmm. Big bank, take little bank. Once you're gone,
that's it.
But the problem with that is it's not sustainable. A lot of things that we're doing is not long-term. It's all short-term thinking. It's like, we're going to gentrify the city and bring everybody in and da-da-da-da-da. Well, did you account for traffic? Did you account for the subway, transportation, and infrastructural system? Nah, we ain't worried about that because we got this coming and we got to prepare. Being in LA, the traffic is insane. But it's like, when I moved there like in 2001, they were talking about building, the subway system, and it's getting a little better, but it's like this kind of makeshift build up for, whether it be the Olympics or whatever things that they're trying to equate for. And that's a part of this whole technological advancement. I think the technology is not the problem. It's just like guns aren't the problem. It's the emotional and mental intelligence or intel or information or access or knowledge or exposure that people don't have, right? And if you don't grow with it, then the technology becomes harmful.
So go back to what you were saying about parenting. One of the best things parents can do, and it's very difficult, you have to monitor and limit the exposure, especially kids on cell phones or kids on a computer. You have to not take it away and say no, not be a part of it, because technology is advancing.
Right.
But you have to be able to segment it in a way that is not in too much of abundance where it's taking their lives over.
Right.
But so the parents have to go along with the ride as well. So like it's a happy medium.
Yeah.
You have to walk alongside and utilize it for its good so it doesn't become bad.
And that's the problem with, that's the plus of tech of community. It's like the education is supposed to be a supplement. The teachers are supposed to be a supplement. The education happens in the home. I learned, working with my daughter over these past 10 years, is like, if you're not involved in your child's life, and some of us can't, because what? You gotta work. You remember you were talking about how back in the day, it could be a single family income and they could get a car, house, everything. But now you have to have two people working. So then what does that do? You have to pay the bills. You have to buy food. You have to do all these different things that you have to do. So you can't connect with your kids. So you have to get a babysitter.
Kids fend for themselves. Latchkey kids.
So what is our future looking like? If our kids are on Molly Percocets and Xanax and all these different things, and they're not really being educated, they're just being
passed through the system, basically.
The
TV was educating them. The TV, social media, all that, what we call entertainment, is what's educating. So just how you mentioned those young kids, the guys in the car, whether on Percocet or Xanax, you got songs, Molly Percocet.
Yeah.
Like, this is things that are being glorified, or they become cool because kids are very impressionable.
Yeah.
So and that's why you hear the term peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
They try some. I heard that before. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Or people just try when they get together because that's the energy.
Right.
Energy in the room is to take risk because you need that barrier of someone to say, nah, you've gone too far. But if they don't have it, because mom and dad are here and there, or not even there to begin with, and they have to fend for themselves, problems will occur. They will always gravitate to whatever influence is influencing them the most at that time.
So I think it's going to be really important for us to become more accountable. And, I have this whole thing that I tell people, fast sometimes, to bring the spiritual element. And I don't mean necessarily, that's why I loved J. Cole. Shout out to J. Cole with the KOD, the Meditate song.
Meditate, 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 meditate.
Meditate, prayer. Get your thought life back. Mm-hmm. That's all that's about, is getting your thought. When you're praying, you're getting your thought back life. Your thoughts, your life back through your thoughts. So you have like people who are allowing their thoughts to, because when you're on these drugs and when you're doing these different things, your mind is no longer your own.
Totally inebriated.
You are open access to all kind of things to happen. So it's going to be really important that you start to fast. I tell people, if you're addicted to like social media, whether it be Instagram or whatever, and I don't mean to just keep putting out Instagram, it could be Twitter or whatever it is, and you can't stop, like you have to go on every minute or every 2 hours, can you cut back a little bit? Instead of spending 5 hours on Instagram, why don't you do 2 hours or 3 hours? And really see the struggle. I had to do that myself because working in the music and stuff like that, that's so much a part of the business now. So I understand that. But once again, I want to keep pushing balance. It's like, if you can't stop and it's controlling you, where you got to look to see how many people liked what you put up, or, oh, they ain't really like my picture, or you take 1,000 pictures and get the right one and put the filters on it and all these different things, but you can't stop. Can you take a break? Do you have to always be on? You always got to be on the gram? Do you have to put it when you're eating? Well, you got to see what you're eating. Like, we need
that goes back to that question. Why do we do these things? Why? What is driving people to think that somebody really cares about what you do on a 24-hour basis?
Value of self.
That's crucial.
It's the self-value. Like Jay said, he said, I crowd surf the internet to get my self-esteem, basically.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
When I watched you watched the I think the movie, the social media, whatever, the Zuckerberg movie. Zuckerberg was an introvert. He couldn't really communicate with people. Mm-hmm. So creating this platform was the equilibrium where now you can sit behind a computer screen and connect with people or talk to people, whether it's a girl, male, female, and you're at a neutral site.
And I learned that it was the system that he was creating because he couldn't, I don't know if this is absolute fact, but what I heard that Facebook started with, he was trying to get girls and he couldn't.
Get rejected, right.
So then he did a whole new thing where he was like, okay, we're going to do a rating system guys, what do you think about this girl? What do you give her? We give her a 10 for her looks. We give her an 8 for this, or 8 for that, or 9 for, and that became so popular, and then it just grew into this. So that's a cool thing to a degree, but what was the root? What was the why?
That's why.
Because the why is important, because that's the energy that you place. It's almost like when a girl's like, he only want me for my this and that, and blah, blah, blah. Well, how did you attract them in the first place? You can't be like, this and that and all. Now, whatever you attract somebody with, you have to maintain that to keep them. So that's why it's important to be yourself and to know yourself. Because you're like, well, that's just the way I am, and I'm gonna be me, and I'm living all these terms that we use, like living my best life and all those different things, which are cool, but they become almost
cliche. It's just a saying that other people say.
just to say it, and then it becomes your thought process is based on what pop culture is saying, instead of having your own ideals. And then there's the balance there too, because we're like, I'm my own self, I'm gonna do me, and I'm gonna just do me and live. I don't care what nobody think. And there is that element that we do need, but once again, it is balance, because we are all living on this earth, and we do need each other.
Live in harmony. And
we have to live in harmony, like the birds. That's why the scriptures always talk about, as Solomon was, he said, look at the ant. You sluggard, you slow, check them. They know when the harvest is coming, because they know about the seasons and the time. They store the food away because they know at this season we can't, so they can see ahead. But if we're totally dependent on the system and totally dependent on that, it's always going to be there. I can always just wake up. It's funny, if they shut down, if the internet was to shut down for a day,
the world would be over.
Especially America.
People would not know how to survive.
Oh my God. Even if it was shut down for 30 minutes, or for 3 hours.
Just think of your workplace when the internet shut down. You can't, oh my gosh, I can't check my email. Oh my gosh, I'm going to miss a meeting. Oh my gosh, my phone's down. Everything is.
So is that really advancement? You know what I'm saying? Is that really like?
That's what we call progress. Is it really? Because clearly once they shut it down or something happens, remember Y2K? If the electrical system just dropped, what are you gonna do? We don't remember cell phone numbers. We don't remember anything. Like our mind, because your mind has been numb. You haven't been using certain aspects of your mind, so that those parts become dormant, and you got to keep working. So it's amazing how, and this goes back to developing yourself and becoming much more mature spiritually. Mm-hmm. At one time, if you use the term fasting, it was always referred to back to something in the Bible. Right. But now you listen to health experts, and they will tell you to do intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
The scriptures, Jesus, they told us to do fasting a long time ago. But we thought it was it's true too. The purification, set yourself apart. Yeah. Just like now how we're so advanced that we constantly do things, whether it's social media, whether it's eating too much. Even the Catholics talk about Lent, giving something up. Because that is something that humans need. Because humans, we overindulge because we love the flesh. Yeah. So we're always going to overindulge in the flesh. Yeah. So fasting, that is something that is a principle of life that you must do.
Yeah. And accountability is really important, and consistency, process. Do it slowly. Over a period of time, over a year, I lost 50 pounds. It wasn't like, it was slowly. I stopped eating beef and I ate turkey. And then I moved from turkey to the chicken. And then from chicken to vegan, or whatever it may be. However you do things, don't crash course it. You want to process it not only mentally and emotionally, then it happens easier physically. So the 3 E's I want to leave us with is enlightenment. You need to enlighten, encourage one another through word, through process, through helping each other, and then through education. Educate yourself so that you can know what's going on, so you can understand how to move forward, and that you can clarify your mind, because your mind is a terrible thing to waste, and it is the most important part of your being, because it's your tap into the spirit realm and into this natural realm. We had a good time with you guys.
Definitely.
We hope that this was helpful, and we look forward to many more in the future.
I'm Cole.
And I'm June.
We out. Welcome back, family, and thanks for tuning in to the Out of Ashan podcast. For more information, please visit us on the web at www.outofashan.com.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Next time. Peace.
and powerful. I am powerful. I have a gift, and I will speak responsibly on behalf of the Supreme Being. I have discipline and patience that will allow me to accomplish every goal that I embark on, beginning with shorter goals that over time with consistency will translate into larger ones. As I journey to my purpose, I will keep going no matter what obstacles confront me. I'm powerful because it's all a test of my will. And that's paramount. And that is paramount. Yeah, that is paramount. Every challenge is conquerable. Every hurdle is no match. I am who I think I am. Today is mine. I will be great. He introduced me to this concept of being.